Faculty Development Program on first-hand experience on SPSS Introductory module, which is organized by Research Foundation of India and RFI-CARE. Research Foundation of India is concerned with improving the educational process by encouraging scholarly inquiry related to education and evaluation, by promoting the dissemination and practical application of research result in working for research and development for higher education. This foundation was known by the Foundation for Research. We conduct in-house activities such as workshops, training programs, conference, etc., and engage in outreach activities such as publication of journal, book, etc. The main mission of Research Foundation of India is to educate and promote the use of research to improve education and serve the good. This FDP program is sponsored by Eklavya University, JHERF, Academic Research Guide Association, and Edu Academy. And for this faculty development program, I, Nikita Kandel, heartily welcomes you all on behalf of Research Foundation of India. The topic of our first day is Introduction to SPSS. And for this topic, we are having a master trainer and research expert, Dr. Chanchala Jain ma'am is here with us. But before we start with our session, I would like to introduce you all with the experience journey of our today's experienced guest faculty member, Dr. Chanchala Jain ma'am. Dr. Chanchala Jain ma'am is an author, research expert, and academician with an experience of more than 11 years in management and commerce as an assistant professor. She's a co-founder of Urjara Counseling and Training, Indore. Presently, she is working as an assistant professor in Prestige Institute of Management and Research, Indore. She is also the coordinator of IQSC at PIMR. As a research expert and trainer, ma'am has conducted many workshops and FDPs on SPSS module, research paper writing and analysis through R programming. Recently, ma'am has completed one research project related to medical field, which has been presented before the Central Ministry. Ma'am has rich experience of more than 10 years in research, and with this, ma'am has more than 42 research papers published in various Scopus, national and international journals. Ma'am has also presented research papers in more than 20 conferences and won 5 Best Paper Awards at JIMS, Delhi, Pacific University, Udaipur, and 3 in Prestige, Indore. For research scholars pursuing their PhD degree under her able guidance, ma'am has also guided more than 500 students in their major and minor research projects. As an author, ma'am has also written a book on crucial problem of our society, along with a co-author titled as Atmatya Kyun. So with this, I can say that you all participants, you all are really truly lucky person that you got a chance to get yourself trained under ma'am Dr. Chanchala Jain ma'am. So ma'am, with this, I would request you to please come on the platform and hold the platform, guide to our all the participants. Now the footprint is yours, ma'am. We welcome you.
Thank you so much, Nikita ma'am. I hope I'm clearly audible.
Yes, ma'am, you're clearly audible.
Yeah, thank you so much, first of all, for introducing me with the participants. I think overwhelmingly you have introduced me to the participants. It was too much you have added for me. I hope I will be able to justify the same. So at the onset, before starting the session, I want to extend my gratitude towards the RFI team, especially the Ajay Jain sir and Saurabh Jain sir, for organizing this FDP and giving me a chance one more time to interact with the participants who joined from the Pan India. So thank you, Ajay sir, Saurabh sir, and the entire RFI team. With this note, I'll start the session of the day. As Nikita ma'am has already told that today I'm going to discuss the basics of SPSS. And for the same, I have shared the downloading link on the WhatsApp group. I hope people have downloaded that, right? So now, without wasting much time on these things, nitty-gritty things, I'm sharing my screen first. And I expect from you people to tell me whether my screen is visible or not. So give me a second. Okay, so I have shared my screen and presently I'm showing you these slides. Can anyone
Yes,
confirm
ma'am.
that the slides are
Yes,
visible?
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. It is
It's
visible.
visible. Now it's my humble request to all the participants that please, during the session, keep your mic on mute to maintain the decorum of the session. If you have any question and query, you can raise your hand. And after the session, we would have a question and round. In that round, you can ask your queries and ma'am will be there to solve it out. So please try to maintain the decorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita ma'am. And thank you, participants. Now I'm starting with this session. Give me a second. Yeah, I brought the slides in the slideshare mode. So as the agenda of the day, today I'm going to discuss the introductory part of the SPSS. But before talking about the SPSS, firstly I discuss in first 3-4 slides I discuss about the research, because as we are talking about SPSS, that means we are interested in the data analysis, right? And whenever I'm talking or whenever people are talking about data analysis, it is generally we are including in the research part. So in the introductory part or in the introductory slide, I'm talking about the components of research study. I am from the social science field. I belong to the management field, right? So according to my understanding, I'm showing you the components, but these components may vary according to the fields, right? If you are belonging to some other field, maybe some component can be added or deleted for your research. But comprehensively, I try to keep certain components which are necessarily we need to keep in a research paper or in a research study, right? Starting with the first component, which is the introduction. That means after deciding upon the tentative research title, we will talk about the introduction part, right? So when I say the introduction is what it is generally discussing the keywords of a title. Say for example, if I'm saying a customer satisfaction towards suppose the mobile brands, or maybe suppose I'm specifying my title, because whenever we talk about research, you have to be very, very specific, right? So for example, I'm taking an example, customer satisfaction towards iPhone. So that way, it is totally indicating, my topic is totally indicating that I'm interested in understanding the customer satisfaction of the customers who are using the iPhone. So that means population is already defined here. Persons, those who are using iPhone, they will be the population for my study. In the sub part of your study, you will define in which area, in which region you are going to conduct your study. So that way, in more precise manner, you are deciding your population. So if I am talking about customer satisfaction towards the iPhone, so that means keywords are customer satisfaction and iPhone. So in the introduction part, I need to discuss these two things majorly, and maybe possible, as I said, customer satisfaction. So it is a very broad term, because satisfaction is not generated or produced by a single thing. So you need to understand, in using your literature review, we are trying to understand this thing, that what are the different factors or dimensions which can lead to the satisfaction. So that way you can discuss those dimensions referring the previous literature review in your introduction part, and that way you will compile your introduction part of your research paper or research study. Further, moving towards to the next chapter or next title under the research paper or research study, this will be the literature review. So literature review, I think generally when we are talking about a sequence, it comes second. But whenever we are talking about a research study, generally research study starts with literature review only, right? So maybe many a time it happens for finding or finalizing a topic also, we are referring the literature review. And then we are moving ahead and writing the introduction part. And for writing the introduction part, also we are referring the literature review, right? So in the sequence, it comes second. But usually we can say literature review is like omnipresent in the research paper. At every point of time, it will guide you, right? So when I talk about literature review, it is a way which it is a method using that we are referring the previous research studies, which are maybe means which should be in the same field. Same field means whatever I'm saying, customer satisfaction towards iPhone. So maybe previous study which were talking about the customer satisfaction in the telecommunication or in a particular mobile brand, I need to refer those studies. I need to find out what are the things were or findings were found by those previous researchers and authors, and what they have compiled in their research studies. So that way you need to just a minute. Sir, कुछ urgent था? Okay. Thank you so much, sir. जी. Extremely sorry. Yeah. So I was talking about literature review. So literature review, as I said, past studies we are referring to conduct our study. So you need to again see what are the keywords. According to your keywords, you will refer the literature review. You will write what are the findings made by or found by the previous researchers. You will try to cite or you will try to quote those things in your own words. If you want to save yourself from the plagiarism, you do not need to copy and paste type of things you need to do in your research studies. You need to try to rephrase the literature in your own study. Talking about the next component, it is the objectives. Objectives means it is like a guideline. So if I am writing this is my title. So might be possible my first objective is to find the dimensions of customer satisfaction towards iPhone. That can be my one objective. Second, I want to compare these factors on the basis of demographic profile. So that way, if you have specified your objectives clearly, that will guide you throughout your study and you will again and again refer them to move ahead. So objectives will come from your introduction part or from your title, right? And then maybe possible after reviewing the literature, also you can get some knowledge about the things and that way you can reframe or frame your objectives. So that would be the next thing in next component in the research study. Further, talking about the next component, which is the hypothesis or hypothesis, depending one or more than one. So after writing your objectives, using those objectives, you are trying to formulate your hypothesis. So hypothesis is nothing, it is we are drawing from our objectives. For each and objectives, it is not mandatory you need to formulate the hypothesis. It is depending what is the nature of your objective. According to your nature, you will formulate the hypothesis. After that, we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the next component, which is the research methodology. This component is the very important component of any research or any research study. You clearly define what type or what is the nature of your study, what type of sampling technique you are using, what is the population of your study, what the sample size you are deciding, which sampling method you are using, which data analysis tool you are applying, which data analysis techniques you are using to analyze the data, which methods you are using to collect your data. So likewise, these things you can discuss in this research methodology part. So this is a kind of blueprint for your research paper, because from this particular angle or from this particular head, you can again go ahead and means whenever you are stuck in somewhere, you can refer your research methodology. It will guide you that what you have decided previously. And accordingly, you can go ahead and you can complete your study. So research methodology is like a blueprint or map for your research paper. Talking about the next terminology, which is the data collection tools. So I think we all are aware that is generally primary and secondary methods we are using to collect the data, right? So primary, if you are collecting your data using the questionnaire or you are conducting any surveys or something like that, in that case, you can go for the primary data collection method. If you are secondary data method, if I am saying almost in every study, secondary data is used because for writing our introduction, writing our hypothesis and formulating our hypothesis, writing our objective for each and everything, generally we are referring the previous studies. So these previous studies are nothing but these are the secondary sources which are already available, right? So by default in every study, secondary method generally used, and depending upon your nature of the study, you need to decide upon whether you are using the primary data methods to collect the data or you are using the secondary sources to get the data, right? After collecting the data, we will go for the next part, that is the data analysis tools. So here you need to decide upon which tool you are using, whether you are using the Excel, whether you are using the MATLAB, SPSS, R, Python, or if you are interested in visualization kind of thing, you can use the Tableau, you can use the Power BI. So according to our need, we will decide upon the data analysis tools, and then we will decide upon which type of techniques we are using to test our hypothesis. So if any hypothesis you have formulated in your study, in that case, according to your hypothesis, you need to select the appropriate statistical tool to test those hypotheses, and that way you will do the do the interpretation part of your data, and that will lead to the findings and conclusion part of your research study or of your research paper. So here you will conclude your study by jotting down all the findings and whatever you have done in the entire process, that you will conclude at the end. And then suggestions you need to make generally to help the stakeholders of your study. So stakeholders, whatever title I have taken, that is the customer satisfaction towards the iPhone. So stakeholders, it is quite clear, stakeholders will be the users of the iPhone. Or by side, I can say the manufacturing company which is making, that is Apple company which is making the iPhone. So that way, maybe the study or the suggestions which we are making, these can be fruitful for both the parties. So some suggestions you can make for both the ends of both the parties, or maybe you can focus on one type of stakeholder depending upon whatever type of findings you are drawing, right? Further, next thing is the limitations. Limitations is again a very important to write at the end, because if the future readers or future researchers are referring your work, so these limitations can guide them, that what limitations you have faced and how these limitations can be overcome by them to do the further study in the same field. So those limitations can help the future researchers, and that way they can conduct the study in maybe in the same region, or maybe in the same zone, to make their own study. Lastly, the references. It is again a very important thing. We always need to give credits to the people which are helping you directly or indirectly. So references are whatever you are referring to complete your study. Means whatever type of literature you have used, whatever journals you have used, whatever research papers you have used. So you need to try to give give the references for each and everything at the end, and that way we will complete our research study. So this way, these are the few components which I have added. These are the almost I can say these are the major contributors of your research study or research paper, and that way we can come to an end. So this way, I think I tried to explain you the components part of research study. I hope no question on this. May I move ahead? Any one of you can unmute yourself and can give me say me yes, because I think I'm on another.
Please, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you so much. Moving ahead, talking about here, you can see our shape, right? This shape is, I think, what I can see, people are very acquainted with this particular shape. This is nothing but this is a funnel shape, right? Purpose of this shape taking here is very simple. If I talk about literature review, as I said, literature review is what? It is a vast reviews or vast studies which are available in the same field in which I want to conduct a study. Because I think it will be very hard or tough to get a title which has been not explored previously. Or generally, we can say we are taking a topic for this, we can get a literature review so that it can make a base or foundation for our study, right? So literature review is literature review are the studies which are related to our study and which are already carried on by the previous researchers. But they will be vast, right? Maybe some studies were conducted in some other regions. Time frame will be different. Sample size will be different. Sampling method will be different. So there will be different things available in the previous studies, right? So what you need to do, you need to narrow down each and everything. So literature review is very extensive and exhaustive. Usually we can say this thing. Then what we can do, we can funnel it according to our need, in which context, in which particular with which particular purpose we are carrying that particular study. You need to narrow down the things. That means in which region. Suppose I said I belong to the Indore, so I am conducting this study in the Indore region. So that way I am trying to narrow down my study, and that way I am reaching to a research gap. It may be possible in Indore city, I haven't found a study which was talking about the customer satisfaction towards the iPhone, or maybe I want to compare the satisfaction of Android and the iPhone. So I haven't found a single study in that way. So after doing the extensive and exhaustive literature review, we can come to this conclusion that this is the gap which I have found after reviewing these number of studies. So I need to clearly write that research gap. With the help of your research gap, you will come to certain number of questions. Those questions will help you out to write your objectives, and these objectives will lead you to formulate your hypothesis. So this way, the journey till hypothesis will start from your literature part. Literature part is very, very important. Again, I am repeating for any research study. So you always need to do a literature review in extensive and exhaustive manner. You need to refer at least 30 to 40 studies pertaining to your title. And that way, maybe probably you will be able to or in a position to write the research gap. Those research gap will help you out to find research questions. Then you will able to write your objectives, and that way you would be able to formulate your hypothesis. So this is a process from top to bottom. Means I can call this approach as a top to bottom approach. So we will start from here and we will end up with the hypothesis, and we are trying to narrow down the things so that the study will be very specific. And I think I do not need to mention this thing here, that when I am taking the things should be very specific. Means if things are like they are talking about so many things, in that way you cannot compile or you cannot conclude the things, right? So that is why you have to be very clear and concise in each and every manner. And I think everyone is very learned here. You people have written so many papers, so you people are knowing this thing, that when I talk about objectives, objectives will also be very clear. The way I said, to find the dimensions of customer satisfaction in a clear line, I am telling this thing. I want to explore what are the factors, what are the dimensions which are leading customer satisfaction for iPhone, right? Second, I am saying to compare the perception of the people for the explored factors on the basis of their demographic profile. So means I want to compare. Suppose one factor I have drawn is the quality, right? So I want to compare that male and female both are thinking the same way, both are thinking alike, or there is some difference available in their perception. So that way your objectives should be very clear. When objectives will be clear, they will help you out to clearly formulate your hypothesis, right? So that way this is a top to bottom approach. So I think I'm done with this slide. Any question on this?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, as per our last discussion on the last FDP, we have joined same, but the problem is the two FDPs are running same time. So, ma'am, is this very important on this? Both mentors are very good, so it is very critical to analyze that which FDP is right now we join.
I'm not getting you, sir.
Ma'am, at the same time,
two
two
FDP?
FDPs. Yes, the last FDP which you have taught, SPSS.
Taken by me?
Yes, ma'am.
Timing is, I'm not getting your point exactly. You are talking about
Ma'am,
the
timing is same. Timing is same, 6 to 7. The another FDP is also running.
Means I think I'm taking only one FDP right now, 14 to 21.
Yeah, that FDP is running today. I mean to say, today you are starting the basic na, so we have joined that one.
I think I'm not getting your point. What you want to raise?
मैम इस समय दो एफडीपी चल रही है, एक तो जिसमें आप लास्ट थे, आपने बोला था ना कि जब मैंने आपसे पूछा था कि मैम विच एफडीपी आई विल वांट टू ज्वाइन, तो आप बोले कि एसपीएसएस नेक्स्ट है। तो आज वो वाली एफडीपी भी चल रही है और ये वाली एफडीपी भी चल रही है, टाइमिंग इज सेम।
Sir, this is SPSS only.
हाँ सर, वो सर सर you are absolutely right, but sir, both mentors are good na, so what we have joined, the problem is this.
नहीं सर, चेक इट आउट, आप कंफ्यूज हो रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है।
मैम कंफ्यूज होने की तो बात ही है, यू आर द ऑर्गेनाइजर, यू शुड अरेंज when one FDP is closed, otherwise you have to put the timings different. ठीक है सर, ठीक है, thank you.
I hope no confusions now. May I proceed?
Sure, ma'am.
Please, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So now I will talk about the next terminology, that is variables. It is very important to understand term variable, because now after today we are going to talk about the variables whenever I'm talking about the data analysis, right? So again, I think I do not need too much focus on the term, because again I understand this thing that you all belong to the academics field or maybe from the industry, but you people are having the exposure of this term variable. So I'm just briefly saying variable is nothing, but it is a entity which take any value, right? Means variable which varies. A very simple in very simple language we can say variable which varies is variable. Or variable which can accept any entity. It is an entity which can accept any value, is known as variable, right? Usually there are so many different types of division of the variables, but broadly if I say, as we are going to discuss the data analysis part from tomorrow onwards, so we need to understand this thing. Generally in SPSS there are two types of variables, dependent and independent variables, right? So we can categorize the variables into two categories, dependent variable and independent variable. I want to focus on this particular equation, y is equals to a plus bx. Although this I'll discuss at the end of this, I think 7th day probably I am going to take the regression part. At that day also I'm discussed, but here to give you some exposure about the dependent and independent variable. I'm talking about the equation which says y equals a plus bx. Here y is the dependent variable, right? Or you can say it is a predictor variable. A is your intercept, b is your slope or coefficient of your x variable, and x is the independent variable or it is the explanatory variable. In technical term, x is explanatory variable and y is the predictor variable, right? So if I say I want to predict the value of y, I need to put these values. A and b are the constant values, so we will be having these values, and I can put any value of x here, and according to the value of x, I can see the change in the value of y. So that way, the value of y is dependent on the value of x. So that is why I'm saying y is dependent and x is an independent variable. Now, talking about further, I'm taking one example here to understand this thing. Suppose example says an academician wants to study what variables lead to performance of a student. Means, as I belong to the academic side, I have taken this example deliberately here. I want to see this thing. What things are maybe leading the performance of a student or contributing to the performance of the students, right? So suppose I have taken this thing, that is the hard work and the intelligence. These two things lead the performance of any student. But here, if you can talk about hard work and intelligence, these are the two terms, these are the two variables which are, I can say vague, or vague, not vague, but not clearly, you can say how I can measure that is not clearly defined. So I need to operationalize these two terms or these two variables, that how I'm going to measure the hard work of a student, how I'm going to measure the intelligence of a student, and then how I'm going to measure the performance of a student. So this I need to clearly state somewhere in my study, right? So say for example, I stated that number of hours of study done by a student will be lead to his or her hard work, right? So for example, a student is studying 7 hours in a day or maybe 10 hours in a day. That way I'm taking it as a hard work, right? Now intelligence, the definition of intelligence is, I think we all know, generally using a IQ, we can understand the intelligence. So it is again using the mental age and the actual age or maybe physical age, you can say. That way you can measure the IQ. So although various apparatus are available to measure that IQ value for a particular person, right? So using that, I can clearly define that if I want to define the intelligence of a person, I will use the IQ scores, and if I want to define the hard work of a student, I will use the number of hours studied or study made by a particular student. Then further talking about the performance, so I can say the performance I can measure in terms of the marks of the students, right? But usually you can see, if I say hard work and intelligence are making difference in the performance of students, it will not always be like this. There can be some other factor also which can lead the performance of the students, right? So I think day before or yesterday or day before something, I think the results of 10th or 12th were disclosed by CBSE. So we generally find that the gender biasness we can find there in the score, in the marks, or when the results were declared by the CBSE, right? So generally we can see the females are leading the results or something like that. So that is somewhere we can find that gender can also be one factor or which is playing a role in making the difference in the performance of the students, right? Next is the socio-economic status of the students. So might be possible some student is having that leverage to access some good resources to study well. maybe this can also lead to his or her performance, right? So, but for my study, suppose I'm taking these two variables, hard work and intelligence, which are making difference in the performance of the student. So that way I can say these two variables which I cannot eliminate from the student, right? They are also present when I'm talking about these two. So these two will be known as the moderator variables, which are moderating the relationship of my dependent and independent variable. And I think it is very clear the dependent variable will be the performance and independent variables will be the hard work and intelligence, right? And I cannot eliminate the gender of a student, and I cannot eliminate his socioeconomic status also from his or his oneself or something like some. So that way I can say these two things are indirectly impacting or moderating the relationship between the dependent and independent variable, right? So I can say dependent variable is performance of the students, independent variables are hard work and intelligence, and moderator variables are the gender and the socioeconomic status, which are moderating the relationship between the dependent and independent variable. Now here one more example, if I'm taking designation and salary, right? So we know as we are progressing from one designation to the other, generally salary hike we are getting. But here again, gender plays an important role. I think if I talk about a scenario, I can say this thing, that if I look at the corporate world or maybe some other field, if I talk about, I usually comment on this, that now we generally the salaries are means gender dependent. Generally, males are getting better salary in comparison to females. This is what I observed. I don't know how many of you agree. Maybe it can be wrong also, but generally it happens. So that way I can say I am interested in studying the impact of designation on the salary of the employees, or maybe the I can say that gender can also play an important role, which can moderate this relationship between the designation and the salary of the employees, right? Now talking about further, I think till now it is okay, and speed is also fine because I speak generally little fast. It is okay. The pace is okay. Or do I need to little be slower?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Talking about the next terminology, measurement scale. Measurement scale is a very important thing when I talk about SPSS or when I talk about research. Because as I said, again, I'm repeating the same sentence which I said previously. I belong to the social science field where I need to deal with the variables which I cannot measure directly, right? Say, for example, I want to measure the brand loyalty of the customers. So brand loyalty is a thing which I cannot measure. There is no instrument available using that I can measure that. I want to measure the attitude or the perception of the people. So again, there is no apparatus, no instrument, or no yardstick is available using that I can measure that. In that case, you need to have certain scales which can help you out to measure this type of latent variable. Latent variable meaning you cannot measure them directly. So for the purpose, you need to have certain scales which can help you out to measure them. So I think in my previous FDPs, I have quoted this thing. I don't remember in which FDP, but I think I said this thing. There is a model, there is a scale called SERVQUAL, SERVQUAL, SERVQUAL scale. That is service quality scale. I think many of you have heard also, maybe people have used also for your research study. So similarly, there are scales for the motivation, attitude, personality traits. So there are so many different skills which are already developed by the previous authors and researchers for us, right? So these skills are what? These skills are comprising or containing certain number of statements. Using that, we can try to measure that underlying construct which we are interested to, right? So that way, you need to find those appropriate statements which you can jot down in your questionnaire, and that way you can able to measure that particular construct. So measurement scales are nothing but these are the ways which are helping you out to quantify your variable, right? So here you can, maybe I think many of you have heard also and studied also, measurement scales are generally divided into the two categories: categorical and continuous. Categorical means discrete in nature, and continuous means numeric or metric, right? So I can say measurement scales are nominal, ordinal, interval, and the ratio. These are the four scales which we are using to measure any variable which you cannot directly measure. Say, for example, I'm talking about a gender. So I think gender, it is very simple thing. It is a quality or characteristics of a person. We cannot measure it, right? So we will talk about the very first scale, that is the nominal. So nominal scale is helping you out to categorize the variable. So gender is a variable which you can easily categorize. Maybe I can say, I'm asking from the participants, those who have joined here, tell me your gender. So everyone can write male, female, male, female, female, male, whatever it is, right? So that way, I can then count that how many of them are male and how many of them are females, right? That way I can say these are the group of the male people, this is the group of the female people, right? So this way you have classified, you have categorized your respondents in the two categories, that is male and female. So nominal scale purpose is only to categorize something, and that further, if I talk about means if you want to perform certain analysis using the gender variable in your hypothesis. So as you know, gender is a qualitative phenomenon. It is not the quantitative thing, and statistics cannot deal with the qualitative terms, right? So you need to try to quantify those categories. Might be possible for the sake of statistics, you have given 0 or maybe 1 to male and 2 to female. So whatever number we are giving, 1 and 2 or 0 and 1, whatever numbers we are giving, these are only for the identification purpose, and there is no meaning of these numbers here. Only these numbers will be used to identify the categories, right? If I have written 1, so it will be clear to me that 1 is male, 2 means 2 is a female, and I cannot compare 1 and 2 also. I cannot say 2 is greater than 1 or 1 is less than 2, right? So that way you can understand that nominal scale is only used for the categorization purpose of identification purpose, and apart from that there is no use of nominal scale, right? Talking about the next scale, which is the ordinal scale. So as we proceed from one scale to the next scale, right, that is from nominal to ordinal. So this ordinal scale will be having the features or characteristics of the previous scale, that is the nominal scale, right? So ordinal scale will be having the capacity of categorization. Apart from that, it has its own feature, that is whatever categorization we will do, you can rank them, you can order them. So rank order will also be possible. You can see some of the examples I have quoted here. Generally, height can be treated like both. It can be a categorical variable, it can be a continuous scale variable also. If I'm measuring the height in terms of feet and inches something, that way it will be your continuous variable. But if I'm saying that short, medium heighted people, medium heighted people, tall heighted people, so that means I'm talking about this is a kind of ordinal scale variable. Short, medium and tall, these are the categories, and you can arrange them short, medium and tall, or tall, medium and short. So that way it is a ordinal scale. Some more example you can find here to understand the ordinal scale. Talking about the next scale, which is the interval scale. So interval scale, scale ahead, in which it will be having the qualities of the previous two: categorization, then it will be having the rank order, and the third, its own feature, which will be equal differences. So if I talk about, you can see certain examples I have quoted here, right? So if I talk about temperature, I always give the example of the temperature scale for making people understand about the interval scale, because this is very imperative, and I think it is very easier to understand also. And books also, the previous or the old books, if you will find, you will get this example in the books also. So if I talk about temperature, so temperature, I think thermometer we all have seen at our home, right? We also know, we have used it many times, maybe for our own self or for others, for other family member, relatives, something. So we are familiar with the thermometer. We know this thing, that in the thermometer there are certain points, right? 10 degrees Celsius, maybe I can start 50 degrees Celsius, 60, 70, 80, something like that. So the difference is equal in each of the categories which I'm talking about. So in all the parts, the difference is similar. 10 to 20, difference is 10. 20 to 30, difference is 10. 10 to 30, difference is 20. 30 to 50, difference is 20. So likewise, the difference is same. But the problem of the interval scale is that interval scale is that it has the problem of absolute zero. Means absolute zero we cannot find in the interval scale. There is an arbitrary zero. When the scientists have developed this scale, they have arbitrarily kept a zero on a particular point, and that way this particular thermometer or this temperature scale was developed by them, right? So arbitrary zero meaning is what? Means zero says what? Zero means it nothing. Zero means nothing. It should not, nothing should be present, right? But when I talk about 0 degrees Celsius, at 0 degrees Celsius, I can feel cold, because the nature of the temperature is what? How I can say that temperature I can feel. So either I will feel hot, like in summer season we are using cooler and ACs, right? And if I talk about cold, so we can say we can feel cold in the season of winter, right? So that way you can find or you can feel the temperature. So at 0 degrees Celsius, we can feel cold. Means one of the characteristics is present at 0 degrees Celsius. So that way we can say it is means the absence of cold and hotness. Both should not be there at the 0 degree, right? But still it is present there. So that way we can say it is an arbitrary zero and it is not an absolute zero. So this is the drawback of the interval scale. Further, to overcome the drawback of the interval scale, we are having the fourth scale, which will having the features of the previous three and its own feature, which is the absolute zero, right? So say, for example, if I say income of a person, so I can easily find a person which is having zero income, right? And when I talk about ratio scale will start from 0 and above. There will be no minus sign in the ratios, right? So this way, these are the four measurement scales which are playing a major role in your data analysis. So this way you need to understand this on which scale you are measuring your variable, and then further in deciding your statistical tool, these skills can help you out. So I think I tried to summarize all the four scales in this particular table. You can see these are the four scales in the column you can find, and these are the features or characteristics available in the rows. And that way you can see first feature is available in all four. That is identification or categorization feature. Magnitude feature is only present in the last three: ordinal, interval, and ratio. Equal difference is present in the last two, and the absolute zero is present in the last scale, that is ratio scale. So is it fine? May I go ahead? You need to unmute. I cannot see the screen when I am presenting something.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Please.
fine. Talking about when to go for data analysis. So I think I'm clicking fastly. Yeah, you can see when you are having defined objectives, when you are able to identify your variables and you have stated your hypothesis clearly, then you will go for the data collection using the questionnaire. And that way, when you are having the data, you will go for the data analysis part. So that way you need to have your data available with you, and that data will come from these stages, right? Further, hypothesis expression. So generally, most of the time we are making three types of hypothesis. One, I'm talking about there is no significant difference. That is the first type. Second, there is no relationship, and third, there is no significant impact. Usually, these are the three ways of formulating the hypothesis, right? If I talk about difference type, means if I am writing there is no significant difference. So in that case, you need to use the t-test, ANOVA, MANOVA, Mann-Whitney U-test, etc. to test your hypothesis. If you're talking about there is no significant relationship, in such case, you will go for Pearson's, Spearman rank, point biserial, chi-square test, etc. If you're talking about there is no significant impact of one variable on other, so you will go for regression. And there are various categories of regression available in statistics. According to the need and type of variable available with you, you will select the appropriate regression test, right? Now, data analysis techniques, further we can divide them into the two categories, parametric and non-parametric. Parametric test means generally this is the inferential statistics. When you want to infer something about the population using your sample. Say, for example, I am having a sample of 100. Using that 100 sample, I want to conclude something for my population. So that way, I need to use parametric test. But for each and every parametric test, we are having certain set of assumptions available. You need to test firstly those assumptions, whether your data is following those assumptions or not. And that way you will apply the parametric test. So some tests I have mentioned here, correlation regression, t-test, ANOVA, generally these all we can put under the basket of parametric tests. Non-parametric tests, chi-square, Spearman, rank, Wilcoxon, etc. So non-parametric tests generally are not bothering about the normal distribution of the data, but whenever you are talking about parametric tests, you need to test the normal distribution of your data. Further, how to choose a statistical test. So the first step is how many independent variables covariance means how many independent variables you are having with your dependent variable that you need to check upon. Then what is the level of measurement of the independent variable means on which scale you have measured your independent variable. Then what is the level of measurement of the dependent variable, on what scale you have measured your dependent variable. Then our observations are independent or dependent. You need to check whether the observations are independent or dependent on each other. That you need to check. Then do the comparisons involve populations to population means whenever you are comparing, whether you are comparing one population to the other population, one sample to the other one sample to the population, or one sample to the other sample. So you need to see all these things, right? And then you need to see is the hypothesis being tested, comparative or relationship type. So these are the answers you need to generally give, and then you need to decide upon which is the right statistical techniques or tests you can use to test your hypothesis. I think these all we will do in the upcoming days. So I think you will be acquainted with all these things. Now coming to the main agenda of the day, I tried to make a base of your research today. Now I'm moving ahead with the SPSS. So if I talk about SPSS is generally stands for Statistical Package for Social Sciences. Nowadays, I think we know it is a product of IBM, but previously it was launched by the SPSS Incorporation. So this is a statistical package which we generally use in the social sciences to analyze the data. Various versions are available. I think the latest one is the 29.0. But I think I used in this particular FD, I'm using 25.0 because I'm having that. So as we proceed from one version to the other version, generally some more features were added. So this way, generally you can avail them. But I think according to this particular FDP content, I think 23, I think someone has messaged 23 also. So it is suffice. According to that also, we can perform whatever we want to perform in this FDP. Further, talking about what type of processes we can perform in SPSS. So you can see if I talk about the first step, which is the checking of the data. So there are options available for running the frequency distribution and short cases. Using that, you can analyze, you can check your data because short cases will help you to sort every case. Case means the rows. Rows means the respondents. So all the respondents or all the cases will be sorted using the short option available in the data menu. And that way you can clearly see because sorting will be ascending or descending. So that way something will be missing or not available. That way you can easily identify them. Or using the frequency distribution. So suppose how many categories you are having, something is missing or anything is any problem you are getting, that distribution can help you out to understand that particular thing. After checking your data, you can make changes in your data. So you need to check whether it is a data entry error, means at the time of doing the data entry, if you have done it manually, you have made any mistake, so that way you can correct it. Then you can see whether maybe you can have the data available with you, but problem is that the respondents have misunderstood, interpretation and misunderstood both. I'm taking the together now. So if people have not understood or properly whatever sentence you have given to mark them, so might be possible they have not responded to you properly. So that type of things can maybe lead to the problem in the analysis part. So at the time of screening of your data, you can find all these things and you can correct them at that time, and then you can proceed further. There is one more facility available in SPSS, that is the record. Record means already recorded data, suppose I am having, and I want to purposefully record it for some other purpose. So that way there is an option available, record into the same and the different variable. Using this option, you can record the same variable, maybe in the same particular column, or maybe you can create some new column using this option. Then talking about last option, which is the analyze. So it is very important because today, because only for this particular thing we have, I think you all have joined this FDP. So this analyze will allow you to analyze your data. In that you can get every type of parametric and non-parametric tests. Using that you can perform various kind of statistical tests. Then further talking about the views, I think these things I'm skipping here. I think this I'll show you directly through the what I'm saying, through that the SPSS only, right? So I think till now it is okay, fine. May I move ahead?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So now I'll share my screen with the SPSS. I hope you people are also having the same with you. If it is, it will be great. If not, you need to look into my screen. Give me a second. I think I forgot to open a file. I need to open it again. Give me a second, just a minute, friends. Meanwhile, if you have any queries, you can ask me. I'm opening the SPSS file. Any questions so far?
Ma'am, I have question.
Yes, sir.
I'm Konak. Actually, ma'am, I wanted to know when I'll put my data on SPSS, when I'll take, suppose, quantitative data. So for that, I have to make it in variable view. I have to go first to variable view, and I have to categorize into nominal or this level, right, ma'am? Like
I think
ordinal,
that's what we
nominal.
are doing, sir. Give me 2 seconds. And the file is just opening, but it takes time in loading. So give me 2 seconds. I think every entire process I'm explaining. If after
Okay.
that, if you are having any confusion, you can ask, right?
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Give me a second. I think it is taking time in opening. I forgot today to open a file. It takes time usually. Because there are so many data available in my laptop, it takes time. Any other questions? Anyone is having whatever I discussed just? Yes, I opened. I think it is visible.
No, ma'am.
I sorry, I forgot. I think I need to share again. Give me a second. I forgot. I have discontinued my screen sharing. Give me a second. Okay, I think I shared it. Is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and extremely sorry. or this inconvenience. From tomorrow, I'll open the file before it. Okay. So you can see I have shared my screen. This is the interface of SPSS. You can find it is very much similar to Excel, right? I think we all are acquainted with the Excel, and we have worked also on Excel. So we know this is generally in Excel what is the system. There is columns, there are rows, and the intersection of rows and column is known as cell. So similarly, you can find the same things available in SPSS also, right? But the thing is, in Excel, you can enter so many worksheets in a workbook, right? But here, there are only two sheets available with the name data view and variable view. Presently, you can find we are on the variable view. The color of button is little different because I have selected the variable view firstly, right? So the color is something yellow or orange type, right? If I click on the data view, you would be able to see this is your data view, right? Once you are opening any empty or any data means a data filled SPSS file, along with that, one more thing is open for you, which is known as the this output viewer. I hope the output viewer is visible to everyone. Any confirmation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So means whatever you will perform, output will be generated here in this second viewer, right? So I'm coming back to this data editor. You can find this is known as the data editor, right? So I'm coming firstly on the variable view. Firstly, I'll let you know how to define your variable. So once you can come on a variable view, you can find there are certain features, there are certain characteristics like name, type, width, decimals, label, values, missing, columns, alignment, measurement. So these are the parameters. On that you need to define your variable name or variable, right? So I'm starting with the first. I need to give the name of my variable here. So suppose I am typing gender, right? I have just typed the gender from the keyboard, and now I'm pressing the tab key. As I pressed the tab key, you can find that now this tab key is showing you this after doing pressing the tab key, you can find most of these fields were filled by the SPSS for me, right? Like the type of the variable is numeric, width is 8, decimals is 2, values none, missings none, columns none, alignment right, and measurement unknown. So that I need to define, right? So that means few fields will be filled by SPSS for me, but it is not like it is filled, so it is filled for a permanent basis. You can make changes according to your needs, right? So now, firstly, I again come to the name of my variable. I'll tell you few of the things which you need to keep in your mind while defining the name of your variable. Suppose I have written here one gender or I think one gender is suffice now. I'm pressing a tab key. So you will get a message alert from the SPSS that variable name contains an illegal first character. So that means the rule says you cannot start the name of your variable with the number, right? So if you want to use the number in the name of your variable, you can put at the end or maybe in a middle, right? That you can do. So suppose if I'm doing this, you can see I'm not getting any error, right? Now, similarly, coming to again variable name, and this time suppose I'm using the dollar sign before the name, right? Pressing tab. Again, I'm getting invalid variable name. So that means I cannot use the dollar sign in the name of my, means I cannot start the name of my variable with the dollar sign. Similarly, hashtag. Again, invalid variable name, right? Now, talking about the next, suppose at the rate. Pressing the tab. You can find I'm getting no error. So the rule, what will be the rule means? The rule says you can start the name of your variable with the at the rate. There is no problem in that, right? So again, coming to this, suppose now I want to define the variable name using more than one word. So I have written gender of participant, right? Or participants, right? Now I'm pressing a tab key. As I pressed tab, you can find variable name contains an illegal character. Means rule becomes, what is the rule? Rule says now, that means if I want to define the name of my variable using more than one word, I need to use either the underscore or the dot. Dot means the period sign, right? So I can now write like this. Now you can see I'm pressing a tab, I'm not getting any error. So means if you want to define the name of your variable using more than one word, you need to use either the underscore or you need to use either the period sign, right? But I think it is very clumsy. I'm only keeping it gender, pressing the tab. Now, after writing the gender, suppose coming to the next, that is type. So by default, as SPSS is mainly focused on the quantitative type of analysis. So generally, it takes each and every variable as numeric value, right? Now I'll click on the box. You can find 3 dots will come. You need to click on that, and then you can find there are this is the range of the types of variable: numeric, comma, dot, scientific notation, date, dollar, custom currency, string, restricted numeric, etc. So means according to your need, if you belong to the science field, you can use these things. If you are dealing the data which is from the US or something, you can use the dollar. So according to your need, you can use them. Mostly used are the numeric and the string. These are the mostly used data variable type in the SPSS, right? By default, it takes numeric. Type of any variable is numeric. Numeric means you can enter numbers, right? Now pressing OK. Talking about the width, if your variable is numeric, especially numeric means it is a discrete numeric. In that case, there is no meaning of the width. Numeric means, discrete means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 105, something like that. So in that case, there is no use of this width. But if suppose I'm coming down and writing one more name, that is, I'm defining the variable as name. I want to write the name of the participants, right? Coming and pressing the tab key, you can see it is taking its type as numeric. I think it is quite obvious that the name cannot be in the numbers, right? So I can click on those 3 dots and I can select its type as string. I can press on OK, right? Now we will come to the data view. So what you can see, whatever the names of variable you have defined, these will become the heading of your columns in the data view. So I think you can find this, right? I'm typing my name, CHANCHAL. Now I'm typing A. You can see, I don't know you are able to hear that sound, which sound is produced by my laptop. So that way, if I'm typing A, it is not taking that A. Reason is what? Reason is very simple. Because in the variable view, the width is what? It is 8. So it is not accepting more than 8 characters. If I want to do that, I need to increase its size using these up and down arrow keys, right? So now I'm coming here and I'm suppose writing. You can find no error I'm getting, right? It is clearly, it is easily written, accepted by the SPS. So that way, this is the width. Decimal, according to your need, if your variable is continuous, you want to express it in terms of in terms of the decimals, you can use them. Otherwise, you can make it 0. Gender, usually I can take as a 0, 1 or 1 or 2. It's a discrete variable, so I'm keeping it as 0. Labels is another feature or another facility available in SPSS, which will allow you to clearly define the name of your variable. Suppose I am writing gender of participants, right? You can see without the underscore sign, without the period sign, I have written gender of the participants. Now I'm pressing a tab. So you can find no error I'm getting. So this way, this feature or this facility allow you to clearly define the name of your variable. So if in future you are referring the same file, you can get or you can understand what is exactly the name or what is its clear meaning. Clear? Talking about the values. So as I said, gender we have taken as numeric. So I'm clicking on these 3 dots and here in the value, suppose I'm writing 1 and I'm giving the 1 label as male and clicking on this add button. Now writing 2 and giving the label as female and then clicking on the add button. So that means if I will find 1 in this column of gender, so 1 shows it is a male, 2 shows it is a female. And when I click on OK, you can come and see, you can see these values and labels defined under this values column. Talking about the missing, I think so far, I think I said so many things to you. It is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Moving ahead, talking about the missing. Missing values generally in SPSS are of 2 types. The first one is system defined. Second one is the user defined. Here in the variable view, we need to talk about the user defined missing value. For system defined missing value, I am coming to the data view. You can find I have written here my name, and in the gender, I hope it is visible to everyone. You would be able to see a dot. How many of you are able to see a dot? It's visible or not? I think 2-3 people are saying they are. It is visible then. Yes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Visible, right? Good. So it is
Yes,
visible.
ma'am.
That means it shows this is a missing value. This data is not available to me, or maybe respondents have not given or marked that particular data for me, right? So this is the system defined missing value. When the data is not available to me, is known as the system defined missing value. Talking about this missing value, meaning of this missing value is that here, being a user or being a researcher, I can define my own missing values here, right? So when I click on these 3 dots, you can find there are 3 options to define the missing value. The first option means there is no missing value. By default, SPSS does not take any value as a missing value, right? Second option, discrete missing value. Means suppose, as you can see, in gender only 2 discrete values are available, 1 and 2. So suppose I am selecting the second radio button, and suppose I am typing 1. And we know 1 is defined as male. So that means I am giving instruction to SPSS, 1 is male, and keep it missing from the analysis, or do not include in any processes, whatever I'll perform here, right? So that is, I have defined this is the missing value, right? Third one is the range plus 1 optional discrete missing value. Means it is optional, discrete value is available here. So suppose I'm talking about I'm having an age group, and I have directly asked the age. Rather than giving the ranges or intervals, I have asked, please enter your age. And I suppose in my first research paper, whatever ages I got, suppose it is okay. But for my further study, I'm using the same data. And in that study, suppose I do not want to include the persons who are maybe from 45 to suppose 85. I want to keep my study for the youngsters only, right? And suppose there is suppose I got a questionnaire filled by a person who's student, maybe a child whose age is suppose 16 years. So I want to delete them, or I want to keep them or treat them as a missing, right? So I have defined whatever persons, or if I'm getting any age which is belonging to 45 to 85 and only 16. So try to keep them missing from the any processes which further I am performing, right? So that way, once I'll click on OK, this will be saved in the SPSS memory, and accordingly actions will be taken by SPSS for analysis and any other processes. I hope it is clear.
Madam,
Yes,
could you
ma'am.
repeat the missing value?
Okay, sir, which one I need to repeat?
Missing value.
I think 2 I defined, system, and I defined 1 more. So which one you want me to repeat?
More one, ma'am.
Sorry?
Ma'am.
This
Miss
system one is
defined?
fine. System
User
one is
defined?
fine.
User one I need to define again. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. For that, I think I'll take 1 more variable here, age. I think it is okay now. I'm coming in the missing, right? By default, no missing values from the end of SPSS. Means SPSS is considering all the values of the age. If I deliberately want to define something, I want to say SPSS, please keep it as a missing from my data. So I can use the remaining 2 options. Second option says discrete missing value. Means here I am giving, suppose there is a person of the age of 16, then the age of suppose 17, and suppose age of 19. I found there were 3 questionnaire available who are belonging to 18, 17, and 19. And suppose I want to start my analysis from 20 years and above. So I can come here and I can define, rather than deleting them from my data, I can define that 16, 17, and 19 years persons, if they are available in my data, please do not include please do not include them for any further processes. Is it clear, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Then third says range plus 1 optional missing value. So suppose in my next paper, I do not want to include the persons who are belonging to the age group of 46 to 85. Maximum age I found it is 85, and suppose minimum is whatever it is. But suppose I do not want to include persons who are from 46 to 85. It's a range, right? So I have defined lower 46, above 85, and suppose I do not want to include single discrete value, means a person who is having an age of 16 years. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
this
ma'am.
discrete is the optional. It is not mandatory. If you will not define, even then it will work. So may I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can we get recorded video, ma'am?
Sorry.
Ma'am, if you don't mind, can we get this video? I mean, if you are recording this video, then you can share with us.
I think, sir, or you can get the recordings on the YouTube. RFI has shared a message. Along with that, the YouTube recordings are available in that particular message.
Okay, ma'am. Thank
Maybe
you.
you, sir, will share again after the session.
The link has
Thank you,
already
thank you,
been
ma'am.
given to all the participants. You can follow that link for the recorded video.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Talking about the next thing, that is the columns. Columns and alignment, these are nothing but these are only for the makeover of your sheets or of your data, whatever you are taking in the SPSS. There is nothing to do with the statistical part of these two things. But as I talk about columns, so by default, it is displaying you 8 characters. I'm coming in the data view. You can see the name is a little longer, but I can see only few characters. So once I'm stretching it, you can see. I can see the complete name. And the impact of this stretching, I can see in the variable view. You can find now its size increased from 8 to 11, right? So this is the only use of these columns. Using the upper and down arrow key, you can increase or decrease its number. Coming to the alignment, I think we all are well versed with this. Our alignment is of 3 types: right, left, and center. So for the numeric variable, you can find the alignment is right. And for the string variable or vector variable, you can find the alignment is left. So it is very similar to the Excel. But according to your need, if you want to do everything, every alignment as center, that you can select. So there is no, what I can say, problem created by the SPSS. According to your need, you can do that. Next option is the measurement. Measurement is very important. That you need to decide. By default, SPSS can take anything. But that we need to decide by being a researcher that what is the correct measurement scale of my variable. So for gender, I think we just discussed, we can take it as a nominal. Name will always be, whenever we are talking about a string, it will always be a nominal variable in SPSS. Next one is the age. Age I can take as a scale value, right? So that way, measurement scales we can define, and you can find, I think you can see one observation you can make here. When I talk about measurement scales here, nominal, ordinal, and scale, these are the 3 scales available. But when I discussed through these slides, I said there are 4 types of nominal scale. There are 4 types of measurement scales: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio, right? So here in SPSS, interval and ratio both are generally kept both are kept inside this scale. So if you are measuring a variable on interval scale or on ratio scale, you can take its type as scale, right? So this is about the defining variable in the SPSS. Now I'm moving ahead and talking about how to bring data in SPSS, right? So for that, you need to see how many ways of bringing or importing the data in SPSS. So the first way is you can go to the file menu or file tab. So you people can note down these steps, or if you are performing, that is great. But I think jotting down the points will be very helpful in future, right? So you can go to the file, click on the menu, then select the data. Once you will click on the data, I hope it is clearly okay. May I move ahead?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
can take a screenshot also.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So once I click on this data, you can find, I don't know where I am. Sorry, I need to click on the open and data. I think I clicked on the, just a minute, I need to close this. Yeah. Again, I'm clicking on the file, selecting the open, and then clicking on the data. Once I click on this data, you would be able to see a dialog box will appear in front of you with the name open data. In the first section, it is asking you login. Login means you need to give the location from where you want to pick or you want to import the data. So by default, you can find one particular folder is open. I think it is okay. My file is available here. If not, you can use this drop down and you can select the appropriate location of your data, right? And that way you can select that location here. After that, if suppose your file is Excel file or CSV file, right? So you can see, but you are not able to see any file here. So under the files of type, you need to make changes and you can click on the drop down and suppose I'm selecting the Excel. Once I click on Excel, all the .xls, .xlsx, .xlsm, all the extensions, means all these extensions files will be clearly visible to me, available in this particular folder. So according to my need, I can click on any particular file. Suppose I clicked on the, suppose math course. I clicked on the math course and then I need to click on the open. Once I click on the open, particular dialog box, that is the read Excel file dialog box, will come in front of me. As you can see in the first option, which is worksheet. So as we know, in Excel possible there can be more than one worksheet available, right? So I think in my file only 2 available. So according to your need, you need to know this thing from which file you need to pick the data. So that way you can select that particular sheet, right? So by default, suppose sheet 1 is activated. I'm going with that. And then you can see the preview of your data. So if you are finding and everything is okay, you can click on this OK button. Once you will click on OK, in few seconds your data will be available in the SPSS. You can see this is the data available in my Excel file which I have imported here, right? Now I can come to the variable view. You can find the name of the columns are defined. Means these will be the variables. So I'll come to the variable view and see these are the clearly defined name of the variables. But if you want to make any changes, those changes you can make according to your need, right? Suppose I'm coming here, I'm making it suppose 2, right? According to my need, I can make changes, I can define the values. I think there is no use of values here. So according to my need, I can use these parameters and make changes in my data. Now you can see these are the data points available for me from that particular Excel file. So this was the first way of bringing the data in SPSS. Second way is you can see below the file menu, there is a folder icon available. This is nothing, this is the open data. You can click on this and that way you will be landed on the same dialog box. Again, you can select the location, you can select the type of your file and then select the file and click on open. So this is the second process, right? The third process is, again, you can go to the file and then this time you can click on the import data, right? So import data, you can check which type of file you want to import in the SPSS, that you can select and then you can click on only OK to bring that data in SPSS. So this way, these are the total 3 ways of bringing data in SPSS. I think till here I am clear to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
May I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I think this was the agenda of the day, but still I'm telling you one more thing, although because I'm not going to discuss the graphs in this particular video, but still I need to show you, right? So for that you can see in the bar, you can find the name graphs. Graphs is your one more menu, one more tab available. Once I'll click on this, I would be able to see a chart builder. I can click on this chart builder. Once I'll click on the chart builder, you would be able to see a dialog box appear in front of me, where you can find at the upper side, upper left side, you can find all the variables which are available in your file will be listed at the left hand side. This is the preview window where you can see the preview of your chart. And below this, you can find these are the various charts available in SPSS. So suppose I want to draw a histogram is available. Yes. I want to draw a histogram here, right? So what I did, I have chosen here an appropriate graph for my variable. As you can see, both the variables are numeric or continuous in nature. So the appropriate graph will be either a histogram, means it is the most appropriate, or you can go for the box plot. So I selected here the histogram. Whatever variety of histograms available in SPSS, it will show you in the adjustment adjacent dialog box. So this is the first one, which is the very simple one. So what you can do, you can just a minute, you can double click on this to bring it in the preview window, or what you can do, just a minute, I need to reset it. Yeah. Or what you can do, you can hold it and drag it and drop it in the preview window like this. So this is the one thing you can do. Till here it is okay, friends? It is fine, everyone? I hope you are able to cope up.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what I did, I selected my variable from, I selected my particular graph from this window, drag it and dropped it into the preview window, right? Now suppose I want to bring grade 1 on x-axis like this. Only this I need to do, as histogram is a univariate type of chart. Univariate means for a single variable you can create a histogram. So what the same thing I did, I have shifted one variable from the left box on the x-axis of this histogram, and then you just a minute, and then you can click on the OK button. Once you will click on OK, you would be able to see in few seconds the graph for your grade 1 variable will be created by the SPSS. I hope it is visible to all.
Yes, ma'am.
How many of you are performing along with me? I can't see. Just a minute, I need to come to that window. Just a minute. No one is performing. 2-3 people are performing. I think 4, 5. That's great. I think it's fruitful. Good. Yeah. Now you can see this is a histogram. Histogram generally we are using to understand the normality, that I think I'm going to discuss tomorrow. So I'm not going much into this, right? Now I'm having one more data set open. Yeah. This data set I'll share with all of you, because in the upcoming classes, in upcoming sessions, we are discussing this data set. So suppose in this data set, you can see in the variable view, these are the various variables available with me, right? Now I'm going to the graphs and using the chart builder here. Now for the gender, I want to create a graph. So can anyone tell me which one will be the
Ma'am,
Yes.
screen is not
Screen
visible. Not visible.
screen is not visible? Okay,
No,
give
ma'am.
me a second. Give me a second. Sharing option has stopped. I think yes. Give me a second. I'm sharing again. It's visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. You can see these are the various variables available in this data set. Suppose I want to draw a graph for gender. So can anyone tell me which will be the appropriate graph for gender?
Histogram.
Uh,
Chart, ma'am. Pie chart.
sorry, which one, sir?
Bar chart, please.
Pie chart.
Okay.
Bar chart.
Bar
Pie
chart.
chart.
Okay. Pie chart. Okay. I think someone said histogram also. Why so? Why histogram?
Ma'am, because no, sorry, histogram is not appropriate, ma'am. Sorry.
Right. Histogram is not appropriate because we are talking about a variable which is categorical in nature. For categorical variable, bar graph is not appropriate graph, right? So we'll go for either a pie chart or we will go for either a bar, right? So I'll go to the graphs. I'll click on the chart builder. Here I'll select, suppose just a minute. I'll select here the pie chart, and you can find a single pie chart available or a single variant available in this pie. I'll double click on this. Now I'll shift my gender on the slice bar like this. That's all. And I can press on the OK button. And you would be able to see pie chart is made by SPSS for us, right? Right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You can double click on this. The chart editor will open for you. If you want to make any changes, suppose I want to make changes in the color or something, so I can double click on the slice, and that way you can select the appropriate color and that way you can click on OK, and that changes will be made by the SPSS from us. And then you can close this chart editor and you would be able to see the changes in your file. So according to your need, you can make changes using this particular option of the graphs of chart editor of the graphs. So this is the one thing. Apart from that, I think as I shown in the slides, if you want to do recording of your data, so you can find these two options are available: record into the same variables, record into the different variables. So if you are using the record into the same variables, that means all the necessary changes or all the recording you are performing using the SPSS, they will be made in the same variable for you, right? Then if you are using record into the different variables, in that case, all the changes will be made by SPSS in the new variable or in the new column for you. Means that means the variable, suppose I think I can make you explain using this. So I'll come here and suppose just a minute. So I created one more variable here. Suppose I'm entering here 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, whatever number I want to write. I have made certain entries here, right? Now there will be meaning of these. Suppose I'm coming in this T, clicking on this, writing 1. Suppose 1 is organic. I added it, right? 2, suppose I have write as lemon. I added it. 3, I type and I written as plain. I added it. Then suppose 4, I have written as organic lemon plain. And one more.
Black tea, ma'am.
Sorry?
Black tea.
Black. I added, right? So this way I did this. I'm pressing OK. I'm making this decimal 0. It is not looking good for this variable coming here. I want to now make one more category. I want to keep black and plain in one category and organic and lemon in one category, suppose, right? So now how I can do that? So for that, I can go to the transform. You can use record into the same variable. So if I'm using this, all the changes will be made in this same column. So I do not want to make changes in my original data. I'm using record into the different variables. So I did this, right? Once I have done this, you can see, firstly, I need to shift my variable in which I want to do the recording. So I'm shifting the T from left to the right box like this. You can see numeric variable T, output variable, you want to know its name. Output variable option is available here. So now suppose I'm giving the name as T type, right? I'm clicking on the change. You can find it. I'm clicking on old and new values, right? So as I can say, one clicking on this one, sorry, not one. Why it is not clicking? Yeah. So I want to give old coding was the 1 and the new coding was the also 1. I'm clicking on add. So I want to code 1 as 1 only, right? And suppose I want to code 2 as 1. I want to merge first two categories in the one category. So I am giving the old value as 2 and new value as 1. I'm clicking on add. Then suppose 3, I want to code as 2. Then clicking on add. Now 4 also I want to code as 2. I am clicking on add. That's all. You can press on continue. You can press on OK. You will get a message from SPSS in your output viewer, and that way that variable will be defined here. Now you can find 1 coding is 1, 2 coding is 1, 3 is 2, 4 is 2 likewise. Clear to everyone? This way you can use recode into the same or the new variable. Generally, you need to use different variable. That way you would be able to preserve your original data, and whatever changes you want to make, that you can make in the new column. I think this is all from my side for the day. Now the platform is open for the question and answer.
Ma'am, good evening. Ma'am, actually, I wanted to know about level, ma'am. What level actually signifies?
Label signifies, I think it is very simple to understand, sir. As I said, there are certain limitations while defining the name of the variable. And I think names should be very clear and concise. So that way, deliberately I have written gender, I deliberately written age or something. Variable, suppose you are asking a particular question from the respondent in a frequency of using the mobile phone. So that way it is a very long name, right? So I think I have defined here, suppose frequency, right? But what frequency? So here in the label, I can come and I can write frequency of using mobile phone per day, right? So I think it is very simple to understand. That way you can understand the meaning of frequency is this.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Good evening.
Hello? Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am, you are audible.
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
the software which you people have shared via link, I have downloaded that, but the software is not supporting in my PC.
So, ma'am, I think that will be a problem of your operating system.
So, means what can be the remedy for the same? As I would like to try the same process into my software whenever the classes are going on.
Ma'am, in that case, I think there is no option, because you need to check. I think you are having OS is 32-bit or 64-bit.
Ma'am, I'm not sure. I'm I
You
was
need to check the
downloading that.
configuration of your laptop or your desktop, ma'am. 32-bit or 64-bit OS you are having. I think generally it is supported for 64-bit.
Okay, for that I have to check it once, because I'm having the laptop of Lenovo and I'm not able to show the
How old
configurations.
it is?
It is 2017 model.
So you can please check the configuration once, and you can do one more thing. You can go on the Google and you can find, if you are finding that you are having 32-bit operating system, so you can go and find, you can type in Google SPSS for 32-bit Windows or something like that. So maybe probably you'll get some solution. Probably, I'm not sure.
Certainly, ma'am.
Ma'am, is there any feedback link we have to fill up?
I think, sir, I am only the resource person. The RFI team can give you the answer.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?
I think no, ma'am, no one is having.
Ma'am,
Actually,
can we
that's-
add data labels in the pie chart?
Yes, ma'am. So many things you can do.
Okay.
Available, that type of features are available there. But again, I say, because it is SPSS mainly it is for the data analysis purpose. So that means what I can say, the various type of things you cannot perform on the graph, but limited thing you can perform.
Okay, ma'am.
So can we ask for a photograph for the day? If you can switch on your cameras, if it is possible for you, feasible for you to do so. Okay, I can see Savita ma'am, Nikita ma'am. Okay, fine. Great. Indranil sir, I can see. Great to see. I think 7 days we will deal with each other. Give me a second. I'm just capturing. One more Konark sir. Great to see everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Give me a second. Give me a second. There is some problem. Captured. Thank you everyone for switching on your cameras. I have
Thank you,
captured
ma'am.
5-6 beautiful faces. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this
Thank
today's
you so much,
session.
ma'am.
Everything,
It was
whatever
a
you
great
have
session.
explained, completely understandable by all the participants because the way you used to explain is really nice. And it will be
Thank you so
really
much,
helpful
ma'am.
to all the participants. Thanks to all the participants also for cooperative work. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am. Vinita, ma'am. Good night. Thank you, Ajay sir. Thank you, everyone. We'll meet tomorrow again with the same new topic, right?
Good night, ma'am.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.